You are listening to UpTalk with Sean Conahan. The gloves are off, and it's time to have a chat.
Hello, people, and welcome to UpTalk. Thank you for tuning in, as always. And before we get started, you need to know that the conversations and subject matter of this episode may be triggering to some of you. So, if you believe that may be the case, I'd like you to please take some time and properly prepare yourself so that you can listen to the podcast and get the most out of it. Thank you. This episode is dedicated to the life and career of Darren Anderson. Darren was a firefighter, served for 17 years with the Strathcona County Fire and Rescue Team, rose to the ranks of lieutenant, and on September 15th, 2018, Darren died by suicide after struggling with PTSD. It is truly an honor to dedicate this episode to him and to his memory. If you would like me to dedicate an episode to a first responder, it's very easy. Just email me at uptalkpodcast@gmail.com, and it would be my privilege to do that. All right, guys, how are you doing? Are you owning your growth? I am trying to. It's a struggle. These last few weeks have been really hard, and I have struggled mightily in trying to keep up a good, healthy routine. But I am pushing through. I have added yoga. 4 times a week I do a 16-minute-ish yoga routine, and I'm adding that to my regular meditation and better eating habits, regular exercise, trying to make all those things part of my daily and weekly routine, because I know that when I do those things, I feel better. And it is my responsibility to do what I can to own my growth. You have the same responsibility. So what are you doing? I would love to hear about it. Send me an email or post on any of the UpTalk podcast social media pages, Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, or post on your Instagram account, or post on your social media accounts, tag UpTalk Podcast, use the hashtag #OwnYourGrowth. Let me know what you're doing. I would really love to hear about it. All right, my guest this episode is a firefighter and paramedic in Alberta, but you probably don't know him for that. You may know him for his extremely powerful and thought-provoking photo art that brings to light the mental health weight that comes along with being a first responder. You know who I'm talking about. Buckle up. Let's talk to my friend, Daniel Sundahl.
It was a dark and stormy night, nor'easter rolling in.
Welcome to UpTalk, Daniel. It is a pleasure to have you on finally.
Yeah, thanks, Sean. Nice hearing from you.
Oh, it's I'm so stoked to have you. I've known of you and known you for quite a while. You were, I've said this to you before, but I want to thank you because when I started UpTalk, you were right on board and supported me right away. And for those listeners who don't know, my cover photo is thanks to you. Mm-hmm. The one that I use and will use forever. I love that picture.
It's my best. It's my best work, Sean. My best work.
Of course it is.
My favorite portrait ever.
No, it was awesome. And during the first 2 seasons, you gave away a portrait to a couple listeners at the end of each season. And anyway, you've been a really big supporter. And I wanted to have you on for a while, but you're so busy that it's hard to nail you down. But thanks for being here.
Yeah, no, my pleasure. Thanks for having me on your show.
Cool. So listen, for those of us who want to get to know you more, just tell us a little bit about where you grew up and what that was like for you and what led you into the whole EMS firefighting paramedic.
Yeah, sure. So I grew up in Edmonton, Alberta, up here in Canada, and I didn't become a paramedic until I was actually 35 years old. Went to high school.
Because you were an English teacher.
So I graduated high school, actually went to music school, and then broadcasting school, and then audio engineering school, and didn't really know what I wanted to do. Then became an English teacher, used that as a vehicle to travel around the world for a long time. Worked in the food and beverage industry, like I think a lot of us have. And at the age of, once I started hitting my 30s, I thought maybe I should probably grow up and maybe get a career and do something, do something real with my life. And then decided to become a paramedic. And at the time, I was actually
why'd you want to do
at
that?
the time I was working as a dive master in the Cayman Islands, and
wow.
part of our training was to be was medic rescue, like a medic diver, and I loved it. I thought it was really cool, and they trained us how to rescue drowning divers and how to signal shore and bring them to shore, and actually even how to do CPR in the water, believe it or not. And and I loved it. So I did my very first class of, basic first aid, really. And as I was driving home, I saw this guy get hit by this huge dump truck crossing the street. And I got so excited. I'm like, oh, this is great. I parked my car and I ran. I'm like, I'm going to help this guy. And I go up there and, this guy's folded in half. His foot his foot's at his face and he's gurgling. And I just didn't know what to do. Right. I'm like, but I got so excited about it, which, reflecting on it, I thought was kind of weird. And then my brother says, hey, you should probably be a paramedic if you get excited about that kind of stuff. I'm like, hey, yeah, maybe I should. And that's kind of where the seed got planted. And then, that was kind of the start. Wow.
So you went to school, did all that to become a paramedic and firefighter, and then where did you get a job?
Yeah, so I've worked, once I got my paramedic, I did some industrial work while I was trying to find where I wanted to land a career. That time in Alberta, still is actually now. There's lots of work for paramedics, I think. And so I applied a bunch of different places, got a lot of different offers, and decided to work with Leduc. It was an integrated service. I thought doing both firefighting and the medical side as a paramedic was a bit more diverse, and I thought that was a bit more exciting. And I've been there ever since. I've been there for full time. Before that, I worked part time in a lot of different places around the Edmonton area.
Right.
But I've been there since 2003. I think I was when I started. Yeah.
Wow. So looking back now on your career, as a firefighter paramedic, looking back from where you are now, how do you think it went for you? Like, did you experience any issues, or did you experience the whole emotional weight of it right away, or was that really not really an issue early on?
Yeah, I really had no idea. I didn't know any paramedics. Certainly at that time, no one really talked about, the emotional side or the potential mental trauma side of being a paramedic. To be honest, that's kind of why I wanted to get into it, right? That's, I think, why a lot of people do, is they want to experience those things. And to be in a position to help people at those times. And that's why I wanted to get into it, is I really wanted to, live life at its fullest and be there at that moment, which is as real as it gets, I say. But not only that, but to be in a position to make a difference. So that's always been my motivation, and still is. And it's still what is why I love the job, because I have the opportunity to do that. But it certainly wasn't, if I was to talk to myself, 15 years ago, I don't want to say that I was naive, and I don't mean this in a negative way, but I really didn't know what was coming. And again, I don't mean that in a negative way either. How about if I say it's more than I expected? How about that? That's an accurate way of saying how it happened for me.
So did you find yourself personally, did you go through any struggles, whether it be emotionally, mentally, anything like that?
Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. And my artwork expresses that pretty explicitly, I think. But I really, I didn't really notice anything till quite a bit later, probably the past 6 years or so. I've only started creating this artwork about 5 years ago. And,
that's crazy.
But at the time, the symptoms that I was having, I didn't really know, was from my job. And for me, I don't really have, I think a lot of people think PTSD is, you're working as a paramedic or a first responder or an emergency worker, and then an event happens. And that's how I thought it worked. and then from that
Right.
event, then you're mentally impaired in some way. And that's why I thought, a mental injury worked. But in my case, it was just, a gradual, constant, pressure of these stresses that eventually just got to me and eventually wore me down. And then the symptoms started coming up. So it was very gradual for me. And I think it's almost more scary because I didn't know the trouble that I was in, even to the point of planning, my own suicide and actually almost going through with it and still thinking that was okay and a normal process to be doing, which is really weird. I think.
When did that happen? When did that happen?
Yeah, that was about 5 years ago. That's kind of right when I started doing the artwork. Yeah. Okay. So so what happened to me is that I was having all these experiences and all these negative symptoms, anxiety, depression, anger, apathy, all the things that sadness, things I just thought were, just having a bad day, but it was like that every day. And we went to a lecture to a psychologist. Everyone at the city was going to this lecture, and this guy was talking about mental stress and PTSD. And as he started going through all these symptoms, I really connected with them, and that's what encouraged me to get help and get assessed. Right. So I went to that first psychologist, and he tested me and assessed me and told me that I had PTSD. And I was really shocked and surprised, but thankfully it was great, because then I realized that, hey, this is something that happened to me. It's like an injury and it can be treated. And then part of my treatment plan was to create this artwork. Right. Yeah.
So really? So
that came out of that. Right. So I decided to apply, the style of artwork that I was doing, which I was doing before, but, pictures of my dog and landscapes and, stuff no one cared about. And then I started applying that to my job. And that became a really cathartic process for me and a healing process for me. It was a way for me to purge these memories from my mind onto a non-moving, one-dimensional image.
Yeah, because you didn't pick up a camera until 5 years ago.
No.
And then did you sort of teach yourself how to do what it is you do now?
Yeah, and I did. I kind of I did some courses. I took some like evening courses on how to use a camera, just to understand the dynamic, the science behind, capturing digital images. So I understood I needed to educate myself how to do that. But I don't know, I don't know if I'm a photographer, or if I'm an artist pretending to be a photographer, or if a photographer pretending to be an artist. I don't know where I land. I kind of land in the middle there somewhere. I speak at photography conferences, and those guys bash me because I break all the rules of photography. I do things that you're not supposed to do, which I'm totally okay with.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it's all about the final image for me. But yeah, so for education wise, I always come up with an image in my mind first, and then I learn how to recreate that. If I don't know how to do something, then I just find out. I'll either YouTube it or research it online, or talk to some graphic designers or other photographers that I know can do that, and just learn how to do it. And then over time, I developed kind of my own technique and my own style.
Right. So, I mean, if anybody has seen your photo art, I mean, one thing I'm sure you get told all the time is it's powerful. It hits you. It just hits you like a punch in the throat.
Yeah.
A lot of your images do, which I love, because they're raw. Like they're really raw, really powerful, and I'm assuming they're that way on purpose.
Yeah, and I don't create the images for other people. Like I don't think, okay, what are people going to like? What kind of message do I want to send? Sometimes I do that, but like the concept images that I use for my own therapy, the ones that are the most raw and the ones that you say really punch people in the throat, they're really done for me. So they're based on experiences that I've had or memories that I have that don't leave me. That I say that it invades my consciousness uninvited, especially at night. Those are the ones that I need to purge from my mind, and those are the ones that are most vivid or visceral for my peers to look at. But they're part of my own experience. And when I create them, it takes about a week to do. And I'm thinking of that call. I'm trying to I'm not really trying to reproduce what I saw. I'm trying to reproduce more of what I felt at that time. And it just really comes out. And, when I first started doing this, I never intended to share it with people. It wasn't my goal to share it with people or for any of this to happen. It was just my own therapy, and it still is. But one thing I didn't know would happen, that so many of my peers would look at the artwork and attach their own experiences to it. And so now my images have kind of turned into this catalyst for other people to express the emotions that they're having, which was not my intention initially, and it's still not my intention to do that. I'm just lucky that that's what happens.
So I think you sort of alluded to it. So I don't know if it's a misconception or not, but one thing I want to clear up, if there's any misconceptions, is these photos that you take, you stage these photos. They're not actually taken.
Yeah, I never do that. Yeah, I never take actual pictures of actual calls I've been on.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, you actually stage these.
Yeah, so
how much of a job is that? Like, to stage these?
Well, the images, if you actually looked at the original, and someone suggested that I do that, as I show the original stage photo, because 9 times out of 10 you wouldn't even know, like, it doesn't even look like the original photo. It's really mostly just a reference photo, because by the time I'm done, I change backgrounds, I add weird ghosts and devils and angels and spirits and stuff in there. It looks very little like the original photo. But like I said, it starts with an image, a finished image I have in my head, and then I have to stage it using, my peers, when I travel, or people that I work with, to do a base image, and then I just draw on top of that image, trying to reproduce that memory for myself and how I feel about that image. And it just really comes across. It takes about a week to do, and it just really comes across through that image when I'm done.
Right. So you start doing these, this photo art, and then you start sharing them. At what point in time did you have to say to yourself, like, this is an unstoppable train now? This is blowing up. Was there a point where you sort of realized that?
Yeah. So the first picture that I did was a paramedic who was doing CPR, and again, it's based on a real call.
Right.
And it was never my intention to share it with anybody. It shows the paramedic kind of next to this body with a sheet over it, with his gloved hands on his head. And 5 years ago, we never talked about being emotional or vulnerable, but that's what this image showed. So it was never my intention to share it with anybody. I thought for sure I'll get crucified if other medics saw it. So I didn't share it for a long time. But I thought, it's a cool looking picture. It looks kind of cartoony. The colors are really cool. So I shared it anyways, fully expecting to be, to get lots of negative feedback from the community. And at that time I had like 30 people on my Facebook page. So 30 people that I knew personally. So I knew that I assumed that they would respond negatively to it. But that first image, I went from 30 to 30,000 followers on my Facebook page in a day. I thought my phone was broken. That it went so viral that people, responded to it so vividly and so, 30,000 was crazy. And, then I realized, holy crap, like this, I really struck a nerve here with people. And the response was the negative, or the opposite of what I thought it was going to be. And that's when I realized that other people, would attach their own experiences to the artwork, which I didn't think was going to happen. And now when I create these images, it's still very personal to me. It's based on, an experience that I had. It's like, it's a little bit scary. It's still very vulnerable, and I don't know what's going to happen. It's a bit more scary now because, now when I share it, I know, hundreds of thousands and maybe even millions of people are going to see it. So it's more like, okay, everybody, here's my mind. I feel like a vulnerable, naked, baby saying, okay, well, here I am. Don't kick me. I hope you guys like it. Right. And sometimes I do get kicked, which is okay. But it's like rolling a snowball down a hill, right? And then, the comments come in from all around the world, and it's really great to see the community worldwide interact with each other based on the images I create. And that's what I really like doing is posting an image, and seeing how people react to it and how they communicate with each other in the comments. I really get a kick out of that. And most of the time it's usually very positive. So,
and now your photo art has created sort of an avenue for you now to go and talk about mental health and PTSD and post-traumatic growth. I mean, I had it was awesome to see you. I saw you speak in PEI a couple of years ago, and then of course I went to the first peer recovery and resilience symposium last year in Edmonton. And we'll talk about the new one here in a minute, but or this year's one. I mean, how has that been for you? Now it's not just going and showing your photo art. Now you're actually speaking to people.
Yeah, which has been great. So now I have an opportunity to really, potentially make things better for us. Initially people wanted me to come in. I started to get invited to conferences just to show the artwork. And then while I was at these conferences, people would talk to me and people encouraged me, you should really be speaking at these kind of conferences, just telling people your story of how this happened, because, to hear a peer talk about that and their recovery is really helpful. So I thought, yeah, I think that'd be great. So I started doing that, and then that kind of exploded too. And now I'm traveling around the world talking about my own experiences. I don't tell people to do things. I don't tell them to, because I'm not a mental health professional. I just share as a peer. I'm like, look, I'm one of you guys. This is what happened to me. These are the signs and symptoms that I had. But more importantly, this is what I did to get better. I'm not saying you should do that, but for me, this worked, and I continue to get better. And now I'm better than I was even before my impairment, which is what post-traumatic growth is. And now I get invited to speak everywhere, which is really cool, because I get to meet.
You just said
because I get to meet my peers all over the world, which is really exciting.
Yeah, that would be wicked. We were talking before we started the podcast about you just came back from Australia.
That's right.
And you said you learned a couple things there that they may be ahead of the curve.
Yeah, I think so. Based on my own experience, from what I saw there, people are they're really open to talk about mental health. The CEO of Victoria Ambulance, which is a huge service, like it's the whole state of Victoria. I know they have over 2,000 medics. He wanted to talk to me when I was there, so I had a 2-hour meeting with him and their head psychologist, and then union president wanted to talk to me about mental health, and so it's a real priority for them, I think. And even just walking down the street, people, they would talk about mental health, and there's another mental health initiative happening, and they're handing out these blue bands, and even on Qantas Airlines flying out there, they have a video about mental health awareness, and so I think it's really normalized there, more so than here, and the experiences that I had, the short time that I was there. And just speaking with the other paramedics, like, sure, they have their issues and their problems like everywhere. But like, for an example, when they do their electronic PCRs, and this is something I'm trying to get done here in Alberta, is in Victoria, they have similar electronic PCRs, patient care reports, that we have here in Alberta. But at the end of their PCR, there's just a tick box that says, based on this call, do you want to speak with a peer support member? Check this box for yes. Something that simple, right? And simple. They click it. No one knows. Like, no one needs to know about it. They don't have to tell anybody. And if that checkbox, if that gets marked, then a peer guy will contact them. Like, how easy is that? I'm like, that's fantastic. So it's something I'm trying to get done here in Alberta if I can, because that's seems like a pretty simple thing. And I think that'd be really helpful. So that's just one example of a few of the things that they're doing down there.
I mean, how do you think? I mean, I know a lot of countries, a lot of organizations, governments are playing catch up with this whole subject. I mean, how do you think we're doing here? If you want to speak to Alberta or speak to what you've seen across the country. I mean, do you think that we're going in the right direction? Like you just mentioned, one of these little simple things we could do with these electronic PCRs. How do you think we're doing?
Yeah, I think we're doing better than we were, and we're going in the right direction. But I've talked to some people here that think we're world leaders when it comes to mental health, and that certainly isn't the case in my experience. There's a long ways to go, and we're doing great things, but it's like pushing upstream. It's like swimming upstream to get stuff done, because, the negative stigma is still there, and it's a hard thing to push against, but it is getting better. And I think we are going in the right direction. And I'm really excited about where it's going. And I think, we are doing a lot better than many other places I've been to as well.
Cool. All right. So now, I mean, you have your own struggles that you deal with personally that you've grown from, and now you're going all over the world talking about mental health, talking about, whether it be PTSD or just mental health in general, mental illness. Obviously, people are coming up to you with these things and probably unloading on you sometimes about their traumatic experiences. As I said before, the theme this year of UpTalk is Own Your Growth, taking responsibility for post-traumatic growth and for your own wellness. How do you deal with that personally? What do you do to make sure that you stay on point and you stay in a good mindset?
At first it was pretty hard. At first I think because people saw my images and connected to it so vividly for themselves, they felt they had a connection to me.
They think that they know you. I felt that way. They think, hey, like, we're
which is great. Like, don't get me wrong. I love that happens. But a lot of people would really, like, I was receiving horrible emails from these experiences, not to me, but, hearing these really horrible things that my brothers and sisters were experiencing. And I really didn't know how to deal with it. And it was a topic with me and my psychologist. I'm like, hey, how do I deal with this? So we came up with a plan, and it's, it's good now. And I'm happy for people to do that, because I know if they're going to talk to me about issues that they're having, then I know they're reaching out. Right. So I'm grateful that people feel comfortable enough to do that with me, and I'm completely accepted, and I'm happy that happens, because now I have a list of resources depending on where they are, where I can point them to. Again, I'm not a mental health professional. I don't tell people what to do. But I can connect with them as their brother. I can sympathize with them, and empathize with them, and say, look, I get it. I understand what you're going through. This is what I did. Here are some numbers, or here's some context you can make based on where you are. That may be, and I always encourage people, if you have the means, get assessed by a psychologist. If you can.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely. I mean, and like, what routines did you purposely into your life? I know your wife's a yoga instructor.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that has some part in your life.
That was, that's, I should probably do more yoga than I do. I really have no excuse.
Everybody should do more yoga than they do. I think.
I do.
That's what I'm learning.
And that's the other thing they do in Australia. There's Blind Tiger Yoga. There's a guy out there that does amazing stuff. A yin yoga class for first responders and military that's done wonderful things that I wish we did more of here. Anyways, so the yoga, the exercise in general, I really, taking ownership. I even did it's funny that's your topic. There's a painting that I did of this paramedic, and he's on one side of the bridge over this little river, and then the other side of the bridge is this big demon. It's like, you need to cross that bridge. Like, the demon isn't just going to disappear. You need to go over that bridge, take command of your life and do what you have to do to get better. So that's one of the things I had to do, is make that decision that I need to fix myself. I can't fix myself, but I need to make the changes and seek help to get better. I'm no longer just gonna sit there and hopefully it goes away. So that was
it's a conscious choice that you have to make. Almost, you have to micromanage every minute of your day to make a choice to walk towards growth.
Yeah. And it's not easy. It's a difficult. And when I do my presentation, I use the analogy of a seed that has to break apart in order for it to grow. The seed gets destroyed when it turns into a flower, but then it's a flower, right? So it hurts. You have to do the work, but in that process of doing the work, you actually reconfigure your mind, and you can come out a better person than you were before, which is exciting. Now, that's what I really try to tell people when I do my sessions is, it sucks to get diagnosed with a mental injury, but hey, there might be a silver lining here. If you do the work, to get better, then you can come out the other end a better person than you were before. So it's actually a positive, I use the analogy of Batman or Spider-Man, where, their relatives, their uncles and their parents get killed by bad guys, and they take that and turn around and turn into these superheroes. And that's what it can be like for us that, get these mental injuries if we do the work.
Yeah. If you do the work. I mean, My opinion is that, mental illness, just like any other illness, the illness itself is not the sign of strength. It doesn't indicate strength, doesn't indicate weakness. It's just something that happens. But your growth afterwards, your post-traumatic growth for mental illness specifically, that's the sign of strength. That's a sign of resiliency. And for some people it takes longer than others, and everybody's at different levels of trying to walk towards that growth. But and that doesn't matter what level you're at, as long as you're moving forward. It doesn't matter. That is the true sign of strength, in my opinion.
And it's tough, but there's support. And I agree with you. Yeah, you need to make that decision, but you're not alone in walking that path. Like there's, cause that's a scary thing to hear. And I know there's a lot of people, and there's a lot of victim blaming going out there, which I think is really bad, which unfortunately makes people feel even worse. That's, it's kind of like, if you're assaulted by one parent and then you go to the other parent ask for help, and that parent says, well, you deserve it. Like that's what victim blaming is like. It's really, really bad. So I discourage that kind of talk as much as I can. And I hear that a lot of people saying, mental health is, you knew it yourself, you're getting self into, and, you should have gone out, and, it's your own responsibility. And, which, part of those things are true. However, it's like any other injury. It's like if you break your back, you don't want to give the person crap because they slipped and fell and now they got a broken back, right? They need support. It's, you know what I'm saying?
I think that, there's, no matter what anybody says, there are certainly, looking back, I know for me, there's things I could have done differently throughout my career that probably would have prolonged my career. I could have taken care of myself better. I could have done some things that I didn't do. However, there is no way, absolutely no way at all, to prepare someone for the weight. I'm going to talk about first responders specifically. There's no way to prepare someone for the emotional and mental weight of what could happen. Because it's different for everybody, and there's just no way to quantify it. It's something that you don't know until you experience it.
Yeah.
So because you get those judgments, you get that, well, you knew what you signed up for, but it's just not a legitimate comment to make.
Yeah, and it's, this is just my opinion, right? I'm not an authority by any means, but that's just how I feel on that topic. And I'm just I'm really conscious of the victim blaming, because knowing how vulnerable I was at that time. Another thing that I hear a lot of people saying, including psychologists, is, they're like, they're in this position because they just made bad life choices. I hear that a lot. It's like, well, maybe it had nothing to do with work. It was something, outside of work. But the reality is that there's, you're 4 times more likely to develop a mental diagnosis problem if you're a first responder. So maybe the reason you're making those bad decisions is because of the mental impairment that you have from being a first responder so long. And in some cases,
it's sort of a chicken and the egg argument.
In some cases, in some parts of the world, like Australia, in some parts, doesn't matter if you're diagnosed, they own up to it, even if it's, they don't look for other places. Well, you made bad decisions. You are depressed because, you broke up with your wife, or you have a drug problem, or you have a drinking problem. Like, well, maybe you have a drug problem and a drinking problem, or making these bad decisions because of what you experienced at work, right? So because of the statistic of the 4 times more likely as if you're a first responder, they own up to it. They're like, yeah, even though we can't prove it, it's likely that they had some part in it. So instead of trying to, shed responsibility for that, they're owning up to it and helping.
Yeah, for sure. So Daniel, obviously you go around and you talk at all these people, invite you to their events and talk. At some point, you decided to have your own.
Yeah, and the reason I decided to do that is that I really wanted to have a conference about positive mental health or positive psychology. So I invited, because I get to travel, I meet many first responders from all around the world that have been involved in some pretty scary situations. that are doing really good, that are in this post-traumatic growth phase. And I think the more of us that can hear those stories, the more positive and hopeful it can be. So
Right, and so you had your first one last year in October, and I was there.
Thanks for coming.
It was wicked. Was really happy to go. And then you have another one coming up this October.
Yes, which I'm really excited about. For my conference, we don't have any psychologists unless they're also first responders, but it's peer-to-peer. It's peer stories. And I'm not saying that there's many conferences where there are, psychologists, and I think those are great. I go to those and there's a place for those, but this one's just a little bit different, where you're hearing from a fellow first responder about their experiences and what they've done to get better and the techniques that they use to improve their life and get back to baseline, but in these cases, even go above and beyond that into post-traumatic growth phase, which is really exciting and empowering to hear. You're a peer of yours that have, maybe not have been in a similar situation, but have that same impairment, that have broken through and are in a new level of recovery. So if you can see that, it's like, yeah, if they can do it, I can do it too. So that's kind of the basis of my conference that I put on, and it's and the majority of these people aren't professional public speakers, so it's a really legitimate and really raw. And you saw that, like everybody, it's an emotional day because they get up there and they start talking about themselves and their experiences, and it's a real authentic experience.
Yeah, sometimes you can see it hit them, and but that's what it's all about. It's about being honest, emotionally honest, open, and that's when you strike the most chords with people.
So they're really not polished. They're really not, it's not a show, but they're also passionate about the positivity of the growth that they've experienced despite their experiences, and that's a powerful message for all of us. So this year, I have 6 more people coming that I've met. I have a dispatcher from Las Vegas that was involved with the shootings there. I have a paramedic from Charlotte who's involved in all the racial riots there. She's coming to talk about her experiences there. I have a corrections officer from Saskatchewan who's going to come and talk about her experiences. Nice. I have a paramedic, the paramedic first on scene at the Humboldt crash. She's going to come and talk about that event and how her experiences and how she's dealing with that. And then I have a retired police officer from Calgary and a paramedic that I work with that actually is now a life coach and is doing some amazing things with fitness and post-traumatic growth in his own way. I think that's 6.
Awesome.
I think that's 6. Yeah.
Yep, I think you got. And then you also, like last time, there were some vendors set up as well.
Yeah, so we have vendor tables this year as well. The night before, we're gonna have another. I'm gonna do my session the night before, and then also another 4, maybe 5 people are gonna come and talk about the mental health initiatives that they offer in that area. So in Alberta specifically, to southern Alberta, some of the programs that first responders can utilize. Just some options for them that they may not be aware of, that they're going to come and just do a little spiel about what they can do.
Wicked. Yep. So if someone wants to find out that and wants to sign up for that, which I would encourage everybody listening to do if they can, where can they go to find out?
Yeah, they can come to, I have a Facebook event page, so you can find it on any of my web pages. If you just search for Dance on Facebook, my Dance on Photos Facebook page is there, and there's an event page, so all the information is there. We also have a website. It's the peerrrsociety.com. So it's the Peer Recovery and Resiliency Society.com. All the information is there. Now we also have a scholarship. So we are going to be bringing somebody. You can enter, tell us why you want to come. And there's 5 of us that will go through all these entry forms and we'll pick somebody. Or last year we had 6 people that came. We paid for their flight, their hotel, their entry, everything, and they come as our special guests.
Right. I met some of them actually. They were like students.
That's so that information is on that webpage as well. And it's a limited. We keep these events pretty cozy. We don't want them to be too big. So we're only selling 180 tickets, and they just went on sale a few days ago.
Wicked. I don't expect they're going to last very long.
Probably not.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like, it was awesome last year. We saw some great speakers, including Chris Siddons,
Yes.
who we lost recently. Amazing people. I would please, anybody listening that thinks that may be interested, don't wait. Get your ticket, because it's special, and you're doing a great job with it. I'm sure it's only going to get bigger and better.
Yeah, I hope so. We don't want it to be too big, because we want, like I said, we want to keep it pretty cozy.
To a point.
Yeah, I think I haven't checked in a while to see how many tickets are left, but yeah, last year we sold out just over a week. The tickets were all gone. So, and this year it's in Canmore, which is great, and a beautiful new hotel there. It's going to be really nice.
Wicked. What are the other ways people can reach out to you, Daniel, and connect with you if they need to?
Yeah, so social media is a big way. So I have an Instagram account. Just search for Dance on Instagram. I'll pop up there. And then Facebook, Twitter. And on my webpage is danceonphotos.com, and also have danceongallery.com. And then they can email me too. All my contact information is on any of those avenues there.
Wicked. Thank you, sir. So, Daniel, if anybody is listening right now who is struggling at any level, maybe, and if they were in front of you, what would you say to them?
Well, I wouldn't probably say anything. I would just listen. I'd say what's going on, because that's the big part. They just want to listen. And to be an effective listener is, and just to be able to unload on somebody that you feel is going to be, that is safe, someone that's not going to try to solve all your problems, just to listen what you have to say helps huge. So that's probably the first thing I would do, is I'd let them really unload and really talk about what's happening to them. And then I would encourage them to get assessed by a psychologist. And then I'd also encourage them just to go online and do an online self-assessment. There's tons of them on there. And a lot of those, they'll pick up your IP address and kind of, based on where you are, they'll give you some suggestions on what you can do based on the answers that you've given to that survey. And there's lots of those online, and you can do that in private. No one needs to know. So I encourage people to do that. But I think the gold standard is to really, this doesn't go away on its own. You need to get help. And, the people that fix that are psychologists and psychiatrists. Those are the people that are going to, I think there's lots of other support groups that are huge help as well. But to actually come up with a plan, because everyone is so individual, I think that's the job of the mental health professionals to do that, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said, but thank you for that. Daniel, you're awesome. There's a few people that I've met through doing this podcast that I really don't have adequate words for, and you are one of them. I think you're amazing. I think what you do is amazing. I think you're very appropriate, whether you know it or not. You're one of the leaders of the cause in this country.
Well, thanks, Sean.
If not internationally.
I appreciate that.
It's my pleasure. I'm blessed to know you. And that's how I really feel. You're very special. Please do not stop what you're doing. Keep on with your work. It is making a difference. I know, and as you see, you just saw that from 30 to 30,000 in a day. It shows you just how much need there is and how much people want to connect and want to be part, that need to be part of this community, that it's safe to talk about mental illness. It's okay not to be okay. And it's also okay to be okay sometimes. But thank you. Those words aren't enough, but thank you very much, sir. To say it's my pleasure is, I'm really, to be in a position where I can make a difference really, really makes me happy. It feels good to help other people. And if I can do that through my artwork, then I'm really lucky that I'm in a position to do that. I tell people I play guitar too for my own mental health, but I suck at it, so that doesn't help anybody. So I'm lucky that I can do that. Right. So I try to use the influence that I have to make things better for my brothers and sisters if I can. Wicked. Don't stop. Thank you for taking the time for me and for UpTalk. It was really important for me to have you on for a long time, Daniel. And I'm sure we're going to speak again. We're going to see each other again. If I can get out to Canmore,
yes,
I will.
Please do.
for sure. And, all the best to you and yours. Keep taking care of yourself and your family, and all the best in your career and what you do.
Awesome. Thanks, Sean. Thanks for having me on your show.
My pleasure, brother.
Now my shift is finally over. I gotta deal with what's mine.
He is such an awesome guy. I hope you enjoyed that chat. I loved it. Thank you, Daniel, for sharing some time with us. Again, this episode is dedicated to Darren Anderson, who died by suicide in September of 2018. I am extremely happy that UpTalk Podcast is part of the Mental Health News Radio Network, a fantastic online platform of over 30 mental health-related shows. Please check them out at the mentalhealthnewsradionetwork.com. You can find the podcast anywhere you get your podcasts also. Check out Apple Podcasts or Google Play Podcasts, really anywhere you get them. And if you can't find it, let me know and I will fix that issue. I've already had a couple of those circumstances and fixed it. No problem. Please check out my Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter pages. Just search UpTalk Podcast. Throw me a message. Tweet at me. I would love to hear from you. I would love your feedback on the podcast. If you have a second, please take some time to rate the podcast. Again, makes a huge difference. So please take a second. That is your homework. I would very much appreciate it. Okay, people. We will be back soon with another episode. Until then, take care of yourself and each other. More love, less judgment.
'Cause we ain't superheroes, we're just ordinary people trying to make a difference and the first on every scene. And it's a heavy, heavy burden to carry all this hurting when you can't unsee the things you've seen. It keeps going on. When those sirens are gone, it keeps going on. When those sirens are gone.